Hey, thanks, Jeff. Thanks, Maggie. And good evening, everyone. My name is Mayank Agrawal. I'm the founder and CEO of ZenSpace, based in San Jose, California. Let's jump into the presentation real quick. So we started ZenSpace to solve two problems. The remote workers and mobile professionals dilemma of finding quiet and private spaces in public venues, and on the other hand, solving the problem for underutilized real estate in public spaces. And we have all been to Las Vegas Convention Center, Sands Expo, and the airports, and shopping malls, and coffee shops, and whatnot. And we all take all kind of meetings everywhere. Well, COVID has changed the dynamics a little bit, but then again, there is definitely a strong use case coming from work from home and work from anywhere, which I will talk about briefly as well. So we created ZenSpace to solve these two problems. What did we, while surveying the users, the people who actually travel or they are working remotely, these were some of the top 10 issues which we got them to list. Nice, quiet and private spaces where Wi-Fi can be connected, where I can charge my devices, which is comfortable from lighting and ventilation perspectives, comfortable seating, and certain other features which are good to have, like can I cast my screen on a wireless display so I can present while actually I'm doing a sales meeting, for instance, and a secure lock so I can keep my stuff secure and I'm assured for access to that location. So these are the top 10 features which we surveyed in different ways. We also found people actually asking for availability of these spaces. I mean, one thing which is very consistent is across United States or across the world for that matter, if two people want to meet in an unknown city or a new city, the first thing that they answer is that, hey, how about we search for a Starbucks between your place and my place, close to you or close to me, where we can meet, so there is definitely a demand for on-demand spaces in pervasive, which can be pervasive. So how did we solve this problem? We actually solved this problem by combining a physical modular workspace, which you see on the left-hand side, the second image, and a technology stack, which actually includes IoT, a cloud provision platform, and a mobile app, and a web application, which allows remote reservations and instant reservations on the go to be placed. And then, of course, a revenue share model for underutilized open spaces, um, including convention centers, hotels, airports, coffee shops, commercial real estate, and whatnot. And then, of course, either we charge a subscription model to the to organizations where these remote workers work, or they pay individually. But there is a monetization model on the other side as well. So we are like a marketplace with a physical hardware which actually converts underutilized space. We recently introduced a COVID-centric protocol as well. Initially, our idea was to provide hourly reservations. Now we actually have introduced a safety protocol which allows a 30-minute cleaning window between different meetings, just like a hotel where you have a 5-hour window between 11 o'clock in the morning and 4 o'clock in the afternoon, where cleaning staff maintains and takes care of the room. We have kept a 30-minute window. We make sure that the unit is sanitized. We track the digitally that the cleaning staff showed up and all that kind of stuff, and how to sanitize the space. So in a airport kind of environment or a mall kind of environment, this presents a safe zone, essentially, where you can escape and still be productive on the go with your Zoom meetings and whatnot. We all talk about work from anywhere, the Silicon Valley exodus, people moving out of the valley, and people working from anywhere, Pinterest shutting down $500 million of real estate. So work from anywhere. Our opinion is the flexible workspace model is going to expand dramatically in the coming years. And the trend of remote work is actually going to accelerate that growth significantly. Um, we are not the only people who actually provide a workspace option. We have definitely a competition, and we talked about Starbucks is one of them. There are pod manufacturers. There are companies like Regis and WeWork, which offer a co-working space, Liquid Space and Breather, which are online marketplaces. And all of them actually have their own concerns and own limitations. We actually solve some of that flexibility of creating those workspaces and being pervasive at the same time with ZenSpace. Our business model is essentially selling a piece of hardware to the real estate owner, and a software license. Our goal on the hardware is to make 20 to 25% on the gross margin on the hardware, whereas the software subscription, which is to operate the space, is actually approximately 70% gross margin year on year. And we also.
And that is 5 minutes. When Jeff said I was going to be brutal, that means you get muted. Okay, Jeff, it's time for you to come back on.
All right, so we will make our questions based on what we saw. So my first question, you can unmute Mayank now so he can answer our questions.
Go ahead.
So my first question, Mayank, is probably the one that you're going to address on your next slide, and that is, so where are you now with regard to sort of selling in COVID on traction, product market fit?
Yeah. So it's a great question. So we launched our products for the first time in January of this year in Las Vegas and Hyatt Regency Hotel in Santa Clara. So Sands Expo, which is Venetian Resort, and LBCC were our first clients or partners, where we actually did a revenue share deal to achieve the product market fit. But unfortunately, COVID actually has shut down those properties for at least for a while. So we actually had to withdraw those partnerships. We still continue. I'm sitting in one of the pods in Hyatt Regency in Santa Clara right now. We are going wide with Hyatt Regency, announcing some, there would be a press release and everything. So we are going wide with Hyatt Regency in San Francisco Bay Area. And I have 25 units, which I'm deploying across San Francisco Bay Area. The idea is to create a network of 8 to 10 deployments. There are two large shopping mall companies that we're working with. One is called Westfield, which owns around 110 properties between US and Europe. And then Brookfield Properties, which is world's largest real estate company. And we are working with two of their shopping malls to start with in San Francisco Bay Area. And the idea is to test it out in busy locations, hotels. We are also working with one of the large San Francisco-based residential real estate company to introduce in the common spaces of their buildings where people are working from home right now, flexible workspaces. So that I have not added their logo because we are very early in the discussion, but most likely by next week we'll have traction in that space. So we have proven it in the events and convention industry so far. We actually generated good revenue with all these event organizers, but I think that industry will take some time to come back. While it happens, we are focusing on creating that network effect in San Francisco Bay Area. So our target is 2021. We want to have 25 to 30 pods deployed, revenue tested, and product market fit. And then from that point on, we expand across Westfield, across Hyatt, across Brookfield Properties. To be honest with you, we just have to bank on one of these guys. Westfield has a worldwide presence, Brookfield has worldwide presence, Hyatt has a worldwide presence. So if we can latch on to one of these B2B partners, we can expand quite rapidly depending on the success, of course. So we have a few beautiful logos which we are working with right now.
All right, one more question from me, and then I'll hand it off to Bill or Steve. Cash-wise, how much runway do you have left, and what's your burn given your current level of expenses?
Yeah, so we have brought down our expenses dramatically since COVID. Well, two things which have attributed to, we have completed our engineering, we have launched our product, state-of-the-art pods and software and everything. And of course, COVID did bring in some negative effect on the business, as I mentioned, events and conventions especially. So we are actually burning around $25,000 a month still today. And our runway, from a runway perspective, we have another 90 days to go where it stands right now. So, but then again, with the deployments, which Brookfield property, for instance, should happen within next 2 weeks. The same is the case with Westfield and a couple of other places which we are discussing. So, we are quite hopeful that some of them are revenue generating opportunities like the residential one. So we may actually get an extension of from revenue. But of course, we want to raise as quickly as possible, $300,000 to $400,000, allowing us to buy time until end of the next year. And we are, of course, doing a down round to some extent from the previous funding which we raised at $7 million pre-money. We are doing a lower investment at this point, to make sure that we actually have the runway to last for until end of 2021, from which would be the year for us to reestablish and grow.
Okay, Mayank, you mentioned machine learning. How do you utilize that, and how does it make you more efficient?
Yeah, so there are a couple of aspects to it. One is actually that we use, so each pod has different sensors, including a AI-based camera, which we actually utilize. We want to make sure that there are safety and security concerns which we want to address in public venues, that the pod is not misused. There is, nobody leaves their bag behind, or there is somebody makes it dirty. It's a fully autonomous unit. So we want to make sure that, so we actually utilize cloud-based algorithms, which we have, some of them which we have developed, some of them we reuse from Microsoft Azure and services like those. And we use those to safety and security of the product itself. That's one aspect of it. And on the second part, we are actually working with Salesforce Einstein, which is one of the data analytics platform, to analyze the utilization, how the behavior, how many people are using at the in a single person using a 4-seater pod versus whatnot. So we have actually created certain analytic tools which actually allow us to gauge that. I mean, we have not really necessarily pushed a lot of data in it because we are still in the early stages of deployment, but those tools make us enable us data analytics on the utilization level as well as safety and security.
Okay, Steve has a quick question.
Yes.
Just refresh my memory. What's your connection to Nevada?
What's our connection to Nevada? That's where everything started. Las Vegas actually has been, my only office and my warehouse is still in Las Vegas. We have a, by the airport, we have a 3,000 square feet warehouse where we actually house all our pods. We have strong relationships with Venetian, MGM, Sands, MGM, as well as Caesars. But again, again, from a customer deployment perspective, we actually always envisioned Las Vegas Strip as one of the launch pads for us, because that's a beautiful area, a 6-mile stretch, 30, 40 properties, all business class at some point, maybe not today, but we do believe Las Vegas is actually going to be our, in near term as well, one of our big target markets for us.